Well, she's gonna just, she did it yesterday, and
Okay, I'd like to call to order the November 18th, 2021 Kaiser Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee. First, we'll do the approval of the minutes from October 2021. Anyone have any comments before we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, Michael, I do. There was a discussion that we had about the possibility of like pedestrian islands on some of the streets. And when you read the minutes, it lumps all of those streets together. And I know for me, when I made my comment, I was purely talking about River Road. I would look at those other streets like Cherry, Dearborn, several others in a completely different light than I would River Road. And I guess in my view, the minutes ought to reflect that there's a difference in those.
Could you explain on what you mean by a different light? How would you like it to?
Well, and it talks about, the function being for autos. And I think that's a completely different function for River Road than it would be for Dearborn, Sunset. I don't remember whatever roads were listed there. When I made my comments, I was thinking we got to think about what the function is, and it has to carry a very high volume of traffic efficiently. And that function, in my view, is completely different for River Road than those other streets. And I'd just like to see the minutes kind of reflect that somehow.
Could we read aloud what it says in there right now? I don't have a copy of it in front of me. Do you have a copy?
Of what?
Of the minutes, of the minutes from last meeting? Or Debbie, could you read it aloud?
I don't know exactly what it's talking about.
Yeah, it's now near the end of the minutes where we're talking about, I think Michael made a suggestion about considering pedestrian islands, and it says several members disagreed.
It's on page 2, it looks like, under Mike's.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Several committee members suggested that serving the majority, i.e. cars, is the priority on River Road and other arterials.
I'm still looking on here, the last sentence.
Is that the last sentence primarily? The River Road priority of arterials?
Because he says Chair de Blasi disagreed, noting that he felt that River, Lock Haven, Sherry, Chemawa, and Dearborn would benefit from pedestrian islands. Several committee members suggested that serving the majority, i.e. cars, is the priority on River Road and other arterials.
Yeah, I guess in my, what I was saying last month, I'd just take off the other arterials because my comments were purely about River Road.
Okay, so you're suggesting you just we remove "and other arterials" from that last sentence?
Okay.
Okay, all right, you can do
Remove other arterials from that list.
Okay, and what were you going to say, David?
last sentence.
Oh, okay. Okay, we could remove the other arterials. Anything else?
I move we accept the minutes of October 21st
With the corrections.
with
as
the
as
amended amendment.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion from David, a second from, is that you, Hirsch? All in favor of the minutes from the October meeting as amended, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Or abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so now we are at this appearance of interested citizens. This is the time for citizens to come talk about issues that may not be or are not on the agenda. Do we have any?
Yes, you have Laverne Walker is on the phone here. She can't attend, and so I think we could take her first. Laverne, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Yeah, it was interesting to hear you talking about the River Road and so forth and moving traffic, and I certainly understand on River Road and streets like that you have to keep traffic moving. But I do really feel, and I think most of the citizens in residential districts feel like traffic needs to be slowed down on even the arterial streets that run through our residential districts. I live just off of Chippewa. I'm not there tonight because I no longer drive, and I can't safely cross over to Chippewa to get to where you are. So, no, people don't slow down on those intersections that just have a crosswalk and don't have a light. So, you really, I think pedestrians and our kids going to school need to have more priority than automobiles in certain areas of the city. And what I'm proposing is that you install a crosswalk across Chippewa between 8th and 10th. There's a crosswalk at Rickman, Berta, and River. Those at Rickman and Berta are unlighted with reduced visibility to vehicular traffic. For those of us that live on the north side of Chippewa and would like to visit the library or the park at City Hall, crossing Chippewa is dangerous. There are school-aged children residing on the north side of Chippewa that would like to safely cross the road to get to the skate park. There are school-aged children that need to cross Chippewa to get to Claggett Creek Middle School. My grandson rides his bike to avoid COVID exposure on the bus. In particular, from Bates Court or 8th Street, pedestrians are required to travel 3 or 4 blocks out of their way to Rickman, which is unlighted, to get to the library or City Hall. As a disabled person, this presents a hardship since my walking pace is a bit slow and my stamina is hindered by my disability. Development on Verde, you need to keep that in your mind, that development on Verde will increase traffic on Chippewa. So I really, there are lights that can be put up that are totally pedestrian controlled. If there's no pedestrians trying to cross, the light does not do anything. It's just there. But we need a safe way to get across that street. And I posted on the bulletin board, the Kaiser bulletin board. I also posted on Nextdoor. And I've gotten a lot of response from people who are just crying out for speed bumps or crosswalks or something to keep our children and our elderly safe. And that's what I've got to say for today.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
On the back of your agenda, you also have her email that she sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't involved in the design of Jamala. Was anyone here involved with how the islands were put in or anything? Mike, do you know where the...
May I make a comment? Something that I have seen in other cities that have those, the crosswalk in the middle of the block rather than at the intersection, it causes less traffic impediment at the intersections if there's not a crosswalk there. And it's better visibility if they've already come through the crosswalk or through the intersection and there's a flashing light in front of them, then they know to slow down. Also, people turning off the side streets are less apt to turn and hit a pedestrian that is in the crosswalk. Because when you're coming off of there, you're looking at traffic. Most people are not paying attention to somebody that just steps off the curb to cross the street. That happens even on an intersection that has the signal lights for walking. So that's something else to consider whenever you decide what you think should be done.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
I showed this email to Bill Lawyer, and he expressed the opinion that it looked like it was probably a valid request that the committee could make because of the skate park and the library, and that one of those pedestrian activated lights might be appropriate there, especially since we have some ARPA funds that may make it feasible. So, I think they've designated the ARPA funds for the first half of them, but this could go on the wish list for the second half.
So, the location we're talking about is directly in front of the city hall, not down on the street corners?
So this is Bailey. And
Bailey
she said
or-
between,
Yeah, between 8th and 10th.
Okay,
It's probably where the parking lot, the entrance to the parking
parking lot
lot.
is right there.
There's already a
Yeah.
crosswalk there that's marked. It's got the cross hatches and everything on it, but it's not, doesn't have one of the flashing lights thing that would draw attention to a pedestrian if there was one in there.
Hirsch?
I have to agree that this makes sense, but I also think that the same thing, I don't want us to lose the thought, we need one over on Lock Haven at McNary.
Absolutely, yeah. And I
Because the problem that she described on Chamala is even more acute on Lock Haven. So I make a motion that if we could get, because there are the ARPA funds, the budget committee will be meeting pretty soon on that. There's already a crosswalk there, we might be able to do it, so.
What's your motion, Herb?
That we recommend to city council that pedestrian activated light at Chamawa across from the library and the city hall
And
Lock Haven,
the one at Lock Haven at,
Celtic Way.
Yeah.
Is that Celtic Way?
Yeah, yes, and that is, if I may, Mr. Chair, that is already on the radar. We've talked about that in our long-range planning for ARPA funds, so that one in particular.
That would be a good partnership, huh?
Yeah, and that, so the Lock Haven one is already on the list on the wish list. So adding this would be helpful as well, because, and I think especially since this already has has the zebra crossing or whatever, so all we really need is the light, which is the expensive part, but anyway, so yes, the Lock Haven one is already
Well,
on
and the
wish
Lock Haven is technically mid-block,
list. Yes,
So,
which this one would not be.
yes, so they're two different projects, but yeah.
well,
Sergeant, the one difference is Lock Haven's 35 miles per hour, correct?
Yeah.
Chamawa's 30
30,
here in front of the courthouse.
Right.
The only other piece of that I have, and I have to go out and look again on the way home. It seems a lot darker out here than it does over on Lock Haven at night. Along Chamawa. Is there less
I think-
lights or
I
is
think
there
you're
more
right.
trees?
I think it's a bit of both,
I think it's trees.
Okay.
yeah.
You need a second.
Oh, well, before
Before we discuss it.
we discuss, yeah, okay.
I second her.
Okay, we have a
Okay.
second, a motion
second.
from Hirsch to have the city council approve
Look
A
into-
pedestrian activated light at the crosswalk on
Yeah,
Chamawa
between
and the
8 and
library
10.
and the city hall.
Yeah.
And,
And move ahead with partnership with the school district for a pedestrian activated light at Lock Haven and Celtic Way.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of,
Wait, I have a
Oh,
discussion. So I'm just wanting to clarify in terms of this motion, is the motion to put this on the wish list of ARPA funds specifically, or is this sort of just in general, we need one there?
in
Well-
general, we need one there. Because we don't,
Okay.
we're not, until you mentioned it, I was in favor of it even if we didn't have them.
Well,
Whether somebody else is giving us extra money or not.
It's Hirsch's motion, and his
Okay.
motion was to recommend council.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify that.
And we have a suggestion of funding sources. Bill Lawyer's already suggested for the Chamawa one. And then
That's
there's a
nice.
possibility of a partnership with the school district.
Yep.
can I ask a question before we vote? To Hirsch, are you asking for this year's round of ARPA funds, or are you just saying in
We're not-
general? So
First
you're not
off,
asking,
it's not
I
ARPA,
would-
it's not ARPA funds. We're just asking them to put it in.
Yeah,
okay,
but this, in my mind, and whatever, how we present it, as soon as practicable.
okay,
If we could do it this year, do it.
okay. All right, so we have the motion and a second. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now,
No abstentions? Okay,
got more people.
yeah, but, Rick?
Could I said this once before, I think the staff though, at least the one at McNary, needs to make sure that having one at McNary and then right down the street, the Kaiser Elementary one, they need to look at that to make sure that that's feasible to do it that way rather than combining them into one crossing somewhere. Because they're pretty close together.
I'm sure Mr. Lawyer will look in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or Mike will.
Or Mike, and just to clarify, Debbie, and this is somewhat associated with what we're talking about. The resolution that's council passed, that's like locked in now, right? For spending, for what we would ask for ARPA funds for this year.
Not for any specific fund. Oh, you mean,
It's, oh, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, first of all, it isn't a yearly thing, we have to have them all committed by 2023 and then spent by 2026, I think, or maybe that's 2024. So it is a lump of money, it is not a yearly kind of a thing. And so what we've done so far on council is we've passed the first must-dos, and that's what we looked at last week, was and adjusted the budget for us. These things are the have-to-dos, these have been on back burners. So, and the other ones we haven't really prioritized yet. So, just getting them on the list and is the first step.
Okay. And just to be clear, the ones that haven't been prioritized yet are not part of the first lump of money being spent though, right? Is that?
Yes, and again, it is just a lump of money, and you can see from the packet from last week as far as how much that is. I think it was in the neighborhood of I want to say, I can't remember. It's a number. But yeah, so it was just the very, of $8.8 million that the city has for ARPA funds, that was just the first drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask. Okay,
And the budget committee will start looking at other funds, what, March-ish?
It will be an ongoing process.
okay. And just, I don't know if now's a good time to talk about it? or-
I'd like to finish with the visitors.
Okay, well, it was related to what we're talking about, so, thank you. Debbie, should I bring up what we talked about on the phone, or should I just wait for later on that, since we're kind of talking about this?
Whatever, you're the chair.
Yeah. So just that Wayne had brought to my attention, that there was the ARPA fund project list that was being asked for. We have a few ideas. I didn't bring the list that some of us have worked on, only because after talking to Debbie today, it sounded like whatever would happen today would not be able to be included with those, with the current resolution. So it will be something that we'll be bringing to another meeting. So, thank you.
I can speak a little to that. I attended city council meeting last month, and I presented some of our notes from our traffic meeting. And then they asked me to create a list of the projects that we would be interested in as possible ARPA-type funded projects. And I sat on that for 2 weeks, basically because I didn't have the necessary information and I was procrastinating. So I apologize to this committee and the city if we lose a project because of my inactivity. So what I would hope is that this committee can create a list of prioritized projects that could possibly be ARPA funded as soon as possible. And if possible, get on the first go around of some of the approved projects. So I feel a little better now. I got that off my shoulder. I'm sorry I waited 2 weeks to bring that up.
Well, here's two.
Yeah, we've got to. Okay, I don't know if Ms. Walker's still on the phone, but thank her if she can't hear me. Okay, well, thank you for bringing this up to us. Anyone else? Carol?
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but here I am. And I want to thank Ms. Walker for speaking out. I happened to stumble over a whole thread of comments on Nextdoor. There were 14 people on that thread. Every single one of them was commenting about traffic and speeding, and that we need to get this under control in Kaiser. And so I thank you, Ms. Walker. Are you still there? Yes, okay. Thank you, and encourage your neighbors to also do the same thing, okay? Okay, the other thing I want to say, and you've already done it, but the ARPA projects aren't going to probably get done until 2020, or till 23, and they have to be completed on 26, right?
Yes,
Laura?
but that's not to say we won't do some of them before that. We're not going to wait till 26.
I would make a good case to please. Those are really two important, very important things. There are people being hit all over the place, and especially now when it's dark. And I plead with and get down on your knees and beg that these projects get done ASAP rather than try to wait until 23. So that's my thoughts for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would second that, but also, if anyone has, we had that list of projects that we worked on earlier this year, and that's some of the stuff that some of us were pulling off of. But if any other ideas like this rise to our attention, bring it to our attention.
Yeah, Windsor Island, it's on the TSP.
Yeah, we have two spreadsheets that we're working from the project that we did last summer or the summer before, where we picked the top 5 from the committee that we wanted, which was more like a list of 20.
Mm-hmm.
But we're tying that into the TSP report and trying to pick other areas, since those ones are already on the list to be addressed. And we want to bring that to the committee to actually discuss before we put the letter together for council to review and take into consideration. What I think I've heard is that even though they had their first meeting, we still have a chance to at least put in front of the council our top priority areas that we found and have been wanting to get on the list. We also took into consideration Sergeant Leday's list of speeding areas, to ask for that too. So we will be coordinating a message to the council and mayor of what areas we would like to see addressed.
Yeah.
Carol? Hi, Carol. Yes. I have a question for her, but she went and sat down.
Okay.
I'll wait, give her some exercise here.
I'll come back.
Last month, you mentioned, is that the West Kaiser neighborhood, the association
Yes.
was monitoring the foot traffic along the new path we put in by Cummings Elementary School?
A member of our board lives on Delight, and
Okay, has
he's,
there been any changes or?
not that I am aware of.
Okay,
Not that I
that
am
was-
aware of.
Okay.
And I actually I've been gone for 2 weeks, but I go down Dearborn a lot and stop at Delight, and when I do, and it's school time, I just kind of look around just to see what's going on, and I did see kids walking in the path, not out in the street.
Okay.
So,
And there weren't, the issue was cars parked in the path.
there have been a couple, but it isn't a chronic thing.
Okay.
It's not like somebody parks their car there and just leaves it there. They kind of come and go. And there's enough space beside the cars or the truck, whatever's parked there, that they can still go around that and safely and not step out into the
Okay.
road.
That's
Yeah.
all. Just-
Okay.
Just checking.
Carol, I want to say one thing is that I
Yes.
do have the Nextdoor app and I have been monitoring and seeing those, and maybe I should bring those things that I'm seeing as far as crossroads of things with speeding and any of those things to this committee going forward.
Did you see the latest one, Jamie?
I didn't, I just logged in.
Oh, okay. It started with a couple on Cummings Lane, and it kind of went from there.
Okay, I will
Okay.
definitely make note of it and bring it to the committee for you guys to know about, because that is like up to date, what we're seeing month over month, so
Yeah.
thanks
Yeah.
for bringing that up. I
Good.
will start
Thank you.
monitoring again.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else who would like to speak on something not on the agenda? Okay, well, thank you all. The next thing would be, we have it as the Safe Routes to School Project Identification Grant. Heidi is not coming. I don't see McCray. Will you be talking for McCray?
I'll be talking from McCray.
Okay. Okay,
Can I use this desk today?
yeah.
So I got a handout. This is something that Debbie sent to you for the meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get there and get a wet finger and all that.
Do you need one?
Safe routes.
Yeah, if the light's not on, it needs to be.
So first, as way of introduction, I'm not McCray Carmichael. I am her supervisor. I'm Mike Jaffe. I work for the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. I'm the transportation program planning manager there. And I'm also help run the Metropolitan Planning Organization called SCATS. So I'm going to talk to you about a few things today, primarily safe routes to schools, and then we can get a little bit into the money that SCATS has, because I watched your last council meeting and there was some confusion, I think, about the board about where money is available, and I have some good news. There is money available through SCATS, so I'll get that to the end. So the Safe Routes to School program, we had a steering committee. Hirsch was on that steering committee a few years ago, and we got a state grant from Odot, a 3-year grant. We are in the 3rd year of that grant. We hired a coordinator, that was McCray Carmichael, and then later we hired a part-time program assistant. McCray is a half-time employee for Safe Routes to School. And we started with the idea of having 5 pilot schools. We put a whole application together that ODOT required of what we're going to do, both in-class education and out-of-class instructions, etc. Safe Routes to School is an encouragement and education type program where we're teaching the kids to be safe as they walk to school. Hopefully they're teaching their parents about being safe to school. Or telling their parents, hey, I want to walk to school today. Let's walk to school instead of just driving to school, and how to do it safely. So we started right in the beginning of 2020, and then of course COVID hit. So we had to be very agile and adjust our plans. We couldn't be at the schools teaching Safe Routes to Schools in the classroom. We had to take a different approach with the distance learning. So we started holding more district-wide events. So we did things like an art contest with the theme, I like to walk and roll to school because. And we sent it out to the schools and kids made art. We gave prizes out for that art. We made a calendar of that artwork. We did some walk and roll events in May, both years in 2020 and 2021, where we encouraged the kids to keep track of all their walking, whether they did it to school or not, just to get them to get some exercise, be out in the community. We have International Walk to School Day every October. Yesterday was Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. I don't know if you heard of her or not. A little girl in the 60s, a second grader, African American, that She was integrated into an all-white school, and the police had to escort her to get to school. She was the only second grader in her class all year. The rest of the community decided not to attend. So in honor of her and her bravery, they created Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. And that was yesterday. We've already gotten some good feedback from the principals about how much they appreciated having that recognition. We handed out Walk to School Bridges stickers, Ruby Bridges stickers, Walk to School Day stickers to all the kids those days. Over the summer, we did various outreach events at Northgate Park and Saturday Market. We have a website. We're doing a lot of things, kind of the background stuff to build a program. We hope to eventually get back into the classroom. Once things settle down a little more, the school district isn't so focused on teaching in COVID, in this COVID area. We hope to do things like the in-classroom instructions, bike rodeos. We have been doing things like participating in the school assessment teams that come to the schools and look at how kids are coming and going from schools. They look at it with the principal, engineers, people from the school district. And let's see. Oh, and we've been making walk to school maps. So I think we have about 15 maps for each elementary school, suggested walking routes that have sidewalks. So these are nice printed maps, kid-friendly. They're on our website. So we're going to do it for every school in the school district. And we're working closely with the school district personnel. So this program is still in its infancy. We got off to a rocky start with COVID. We're in the third year of our grant. The MPO is providing money for another 3 to 4 years after that. So we hope to be a sustainable program where we're working with the schools, the district itself, the local community, the police departments, public works, so that we are developing more of a safer community to walk to school, teaching the kids, teaching the parents. Very important to teach the parents. And usually you use the kids to teach the parents, as we all know. So that's the Safe Routes to School program we have here, and hope to have future presentations by people who are running it, as opposed to me, for you if you want to. The second thing I was going to talk to you about is infrastructure. So the first part I talked about is the educational and encouragement side of Safe Routes to School. The other part is obviously the infrastructure, building the sidewalks, building the crossings, that sort of thing. So the material that I handed out is the state's program called the Safe Routes to School program. They also have two sides. They have an educational side, but then they have an infrastructure program. And this is using primarily state funds, state gas tax funds. And I think for this cycle, I wish I had the number here, I don't know if it's on the sheet, but I think they have, for this 3-year cycle, about 20 million plus statewide for grants. So this is I think the second time they're doing a kind of a call for projects for eligible jurisdictions or eligible, entities, mostly local jurisdictions that have to partner up with the schools or the school district. The important thing to know is these upcoming webinars. At these webinars, whoever's interested can learn about what the next cycle of grant applications will look like, how much money they have, what the process is. There's a statewide advisory committee that determines for this cycle what are the criteria they're going to use to evaluate any project. So like in the first cycle, they were definitely focused on Title I schools. So they gave a lot of extra points when they were scoring this to the Title I schools. But there's other things that it might be like the type of facility that you want to improve, the volume on that facility. And there's probably about 5 to 10 criteria that they use when they're scoring the projects. And then after all these applications are scored, then the committee makes a decision about how to allocate funds. Last time there was a maximum of $2 million I don't know if there was a minimum. There might be a minimum. There may not. And then they try to do a little, be a bit geographically equitable, so it's not all going to one part of the state. So I don't remember the exact number of projects they awarded last cycle. It was quite a bunch. I think it was 20 to 30 projects that they awarded in the last cycle. They have more money this time, so probably we'll see a little higher number of projects to award. So if the city of Kaiser is thinking about the kind of projects I've heard talked about at this meeting or last month, like the crossing on Lock Haven, although I know you are thinking of using other funds for that. But there is money, and in the last cycle, I think Salem got 4 projects, the county got 4 projects, give or take. For the 3-county area, we got 11 projects funded. So there is funding out there. Now, there's no guarantee. I think maybe of all the projects that were applied, definitely less than half were funded. So it's no guarantee you'll get funded. But it's a good program to try to get funded, especially if you can make a good application. The last thing I said I'd talk about was the SCATS MPO. So we have funds too. I don't know how many people know what a SCATS is or an MPO is, but MPO is a Metropolitan Planning Organization. We get federal funds to coordinate regional planning and then to allocate some of these federal funds to organizations. So like we've used it here in Kaiser many times. We've used it for the roundabout. We used it for Chamawa Road between River Road and the park. We're using it for the Wheatland Road study. And then we're using it, of course, in Salem and Marion County. So in the Salem, Kaiser urban areas where our funds go. And we are just starting the next improvement program where we have a call for applications, and local jurisdictions, including Kaiser and Salem and Marion County, are preparing applications for, I think we have about $13 million available for the years 25, 26, and 27.
That's NPO?
That's the MPO.
Okay.
The good news is that we'll have even more money because of the infrastructure bill that was just passed in Washington, D.C. We're going to get about $8 million out of that. So,
would that be
and some of those
further out?
No, actually, that's the odd thing. So that bill that just passed, we have money in 22 this year, right away. We have money 22 to 26.
Okay, thank you.
So, and I just learned about another $500,000 that the MPO is getting. So now is really the time to start really saying, are there projects do you want to use federal funds on in your city, and how do you want to apply?
Are they 100% grants?
No, they're not 100%.
So we have to match or do some type of...
Going back to the Safe Routes to School grant, you should attend the webinar and see what the matching is. It could be as high as 40%, it could be 20%, it could be waived. Depends on, there's a lot of criteria about the matching and whether they can waive it down or not.
Does Mid-Willamette Valley COG help out with writing the application, or is there any type of template or anything that you have?
For the Safe Routes to School
Either
grants,
one,
or
either one. Or both.
I mean, if you contact us, we could assist. We'd first have to see what the application is, but it would be like a partnership. I would want to work with your public works director, of course. We can give them tips based on our previous kind of knowledge of what has been approved before. The fact that we have an educational program helps, because they're supposed to work in lockstep. You build the infrastructure, educate the kids to use the sidewalks, use the safe crossings.
I have another question. What's the parameters for the school? Is it 1 mile around the school, or?
I don't know. I think it's a mile. I think at the last cycle it was 1 mile.
Okay.
But the best way to really know for sure is to follow the Safe Routes School website or listen to the webinar. They're doing a lot of outreach. That's what's nice about this program. The staffing they have, there's a lot of good outreach all around the state about, here's the program, here's the kind of funding we have, here's the match money, here's how the project should be selected, and how they'll be evaluated by the advisory committee.
Thank you.
I know our funds, the MPO's funds, we require a match too, and our match is about 11%. So,
And is it true that the projects can be on any public facility then?
the Safe Routes to School projects?
Yeah.
No, that one would be just,
I believe they can be on any public road, yeah.
but within a mile of the school. And then what about?
I believe
the-
within a mile.
and
Once
the-
again, you want to really check the criteria, the new ones that come out. I think last one's was a mile, but you definitely want to check the last one, the next one.
And NPO is that one's not related to schools, that could be any safety
That could
areas?
be that could be, well, it should be a project that's in your local TSP or is consistent with your TSP. So mid-block crossings, which you were talking about earlier, we've funded quite a number of those in the last 5 years. If you look at our current program of funded projects, we're doing, well, 5 for Salem. I think that I was just looking at the totals, like 1.4 million to do 5 crossings. One of them is going to be near Kaiser, the Fred Myers, is it Broadway? No, River Road, where that crossing, near the park. Yeah, it's going to be there. That's one of the 5.
By the,
Where am I?
yeah.
Oh, Prosper, oh.
Go ahead, Chris.
I don't want us to forget that we put in an app 2 years ago for Safe Routes to School. I think we kind of we didn't get it, of course, but we kind of solved the problem with Cummings Elementary, kinda. But Kennedy's still there. And it's a Safe Routes to School, and the sidewalks areas are needed. So I would put that as, once we go attend the seminar, webinar and stuff, don't forget about Kennedy Elementary.
I had a question. You mentioned that working with the schools. I'm always concerned because sometimes when you go to an area and says, oh, that's obvious, you need to fix sidewalks on that street. And then it turns out nobody walks on that street and the kids all, for some reason or other, go some other way. The schools, it seems to me the school is the one who knows or would know how kids come to school. Is that information something the school has collected on all the schools, or do you know?
Well, it's a good question. I mentioned these school assessment teams. So
Yes.
in some respects, the assessment team may have some file they kept, but I think the best source is probably a principal sometimes. If the principal is kind of tracking that. Parents is always a good source. So what routes kids actually use is kind of hard to decide.
Well, you also have, it bothered me in some areas, the number of people who drive their kids to school, so that you have traffic jam. Now, but we're talking about safe routes to school as if for walking and riding, rolling.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about safe routes to school that would alleviate the traffic jam of 200 cars showing up at the grade school.
Yeah, that is a problem. McCrae, I know, was talking about the work done by at Gubser Elementary School. And how much the traffic backs up. Even though the principal, I think, she says he has a video using Lego or toys to show how pickup and drop off should how it should work. Yeah.
Anyway, but that's not, so we're talking about walking and riding.
We're talking about walking, rolling, on your longboard or bicycling.
Non-audit, yeah.
It's off, Christine.
Counselor Reed, did you have some?
Yes, I was just wondering, so you mentioned that there were 5 of these flashing crosswalks going in Salem for close to $1 million. I'm just really curious about the cost of these in general and how much they would vary from place to place, like Lock Haven versus Shamawa, and what are we looking at in terms of cost there?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that, Council.
Sorry.
I'm not very good at predicting costs. First of all, those 5, I don't know if any of them are necessarily going to have the flashing beacons.
So those are just the Tiger walks?
I don't know. I don't know the specifics of those 5 projects to know which ones may or may not have flashing beacons. usually Salem doesn't do the flashing beacons unless it's crossing 4 or 5 lanes. So you'll see it like on Market Street where you're crossing 4 lanes, but you won't see it on, let's say, Liberty Drive in front of Liberty Elementary School, I think it is, way down south in the south part of the town. They have a crossing that they got a grant for, but I don't think they put the flashing beacons there because they don't think it was necessary. So it really depends on, for Salem, what their kind of criteria. It doesn't mean you can't put, I've seen flashing beacons on, a 2-lane road plenty of times.
So Mike, do we have any idea from, because I'm sure it's been looked into at this point, so do you have any other insights on that?
Yeah, a few years back, we did some research for Lock Haven, and it was about $7,500 each direction, and that's just for the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So $1,500 for both, for 2, and then you gotta put 88 ramps on either side at about $8,000, so add 16,000 to that, so we're at 30, and then a crosswalk for $1,200 for a thermal crosswalk, so 35 to 40,000 maybe.
Okay.
Maybe, and that was a few years back, and that was just a rough, just kind of gathering some numbers, so by no means.
Okay, no, I
kind
appreciate,
of take that with,
yeah, no, I appreciate at least having a starting, because I have no idea, so that's helpful. Thank you.
I was going to say, I would say it would be substantially higher based on what Salem's doing. They are, like I said, they have 1.4 million for 5. So now you're
That's a
saying,
little over $250,000.
so that's quite a lot.
so that didn't include the labor for a contractor or whoever's doing that, but I still, I wouldn't know what to put to that number, so that was just kind of rough numbers with just the materials, I guess.
Yeah, okay, and again, that's helpful just even as a starting place, so thank you, and thank you.
So we asked about, assistance with the application process, and I know there's the webinar to watch, but what level of assistance? I know Salem's got staff, right, dedicated to these kinds of things.
Well, here's what I'd say. I'd say, we're planners, we're not engineers. So the kind of assistance I could offer or propose is that if the city said, hey, we want to do a project here, and you come up with a design and a cost estimate and, that sort of thing. And then you're filling out the application of the benefits. What's the benefits of this? Maybe we can help you with that part of the application. What are the benefits in order to get the best score possible from the evaluation?
Okay.
Happy to look over anything and, give any kind of feedback on the application. We can't fill out the application. It's really up to the city to be responsible for filling out the application, because eventually they'll be, if they are awarded a grant, they'll be contracting with Odot about the funds.
I was thinking that, thank you for coming in and giving us a little bit more clarification, because at the last meeting, I was really concerned about the budget and us submitting to the council and all that, and now we're talking about having this memo, and I definitely want to continue to help you develop it, and maybe it's all 3 areas. It's SCEPS, it's NPO, and maybe ARPA funds as well could let council decide how that works out, but at least give our list of items that we have concern with. And if we tie that into, with the holidays, this is kind of, I'm pushing into next year, being that if we were to have assigned 1 or 2, I know Hirsch is probably going to go to the online meeting, but I would like to also do that on the 18th, and maybe around the 20th of January, we could get together and write our message to the council. Maybe, with just the holidays, I'm kind of jumping ahead.
No, I think you're right that we're going to have to be doing that, scheduling for January. And I encourage everyone who has time to look at that.
Can I ask council one question too? Do you think maybe we should start, maybe at least go in and talk with council first and give them one memo of just our ideas and then get maybe some more direction so we're not spinning our wheels on what we're thinking and where it's going?
Yes, I'm thinking that it is, in terms of committing to certain projects, I'm not quite sure how that process is working. I mean, I know that we had, a long-term meeting with the budget committee and, identified these ones that we just did. So I'm not sure of the process actually for the specifics of that. But the more and the earlier we have to work with, I imagine the better.
True.
Wayne.
At the last council meeting, they recommended that we create a list and give it to Public Works Director, Bill Lawyer, of possible projects that we could recommend to council as a starting point in the process.
And that to me makes sense because, he'll know better how that fits into the master plan and, all of those other things. And so, I would.
We rely on him.
We absolutely do. He's the expert.
All right.
Hirsch.
Back to Kennedy Elementary, in that process, and Wayne did most of the work, the application process, Bill was right in the middle of it, and he actually did the walkthrough. We got letters from the principals and everything. So that project, I know there could be new forms. We'll still have to get a list to council, but that one might be a good one to read because all the legwork has been done. And not that we're just going to change the date on it because we want it updated, but at least that for safe routes.
Yeah, Hirsch, let me ask a question. Where is this, because I'm not sure where Kaiser Elementary, what are the cross streets?
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Oh, excuse me, Kennedy Elementary,
Is it
right,
any-
Verda and Kaiser.
Kaiser Road. And,
Okay, so it is on our priority list.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
and it is one of McCrae's Safe Routes to School assigned schools, so.
I guess.
And it is a Title I school.
Okay,
And it has a principal and a teacher, forgot her name, that are very passionate for safe routes, walking, rolling. So we have some advocates already there.
okay.
Mike, you mentioned, and I can't remember if it was for the SCATs or Safe Routes to School funds, about tearing off the TSP. So our TSP is a little old. Does it, are we dinged for going kind of most current, not problems, but solutions, I guess. So, some of the things in the TSP it was written in 2009 and updated in 14. Here we are, 2021, almost 22. There's some different solutions, different thoughts on how to do things. Is it rigidly say if it's not in the TSP, or you shouldn't look at it as?
No, I would say no. I mean, our approach is that it should be something that the jurisdiction has adopted, so you're not, coming up with something, that's not adopted, not approved by your full council. That's preferable. If it's something that is more recent and is consistent with your policies, like a safety project, you probably don't have every sidewalk selected or every crossing identified as what you wanted, but if you came to the MPO with an application that said, we want to do crossings here, here, and here, we'd say, is it consistent with your plan? And you would say, yes, it was, and it's consistent with our plan. As long as you kind of gave that assurance, it would be an eligible project to apply for.
And one more question. You were talking about the education and encouragement thing, and we talked about parents who are the ones who are dropping kids off. Has there been a poll that you know of parents to ask them what is keeping them from letting their child walk to school?
You know, that was one of the tasks we wanted to do in year one of our grant, is to do a parent survey, asking those kind of questions. But with the COVID, we never got a chance to do that, so it's on our radar to do that in the future.
Okay. All right.
That's a common thing. I do want to say one more thing that McCrae asked me to mention, which is, you ever heard this organization called Just Walk? I don't know if it's Just Walk Salem or Just Walk, period. They're doing an event December 20th, I guess in association with the holiday lights, and it might be associated with the Gupser school, so she wanted me to kind of promote that a little bit.
Could you repeat the date again?
December 20th, I understand.
In the evening.
Where?
Well, I don't know. I don't know exactly where they'll start.
Well, they're supposed to start at I talked with Sally Cook today, and
okay.
she's on that committee, and it's Salem Kaiser Walks, and they'll be putting it on at Gupser in the evening on the 20th. It's a Monday.
Okay, great.
Okay, so you were also on the list, and maybe you've talked about it as you wanted to for the Odot infrastructure grant. I know you mentioned that. Is there anything that you haven't said about that specifically that we should hear?
Like I said, it's a great opportunity to get funds. There's they've spent a lot of money so far in the first round, so it's a good program. No, just that if you do decide to go that route, if the city decides to submit a formal application for that, I'd be happy to look at it and see what feedback I can give you to help score the projects better. If you look at the information I passed out, for this round of funds, they're kind of breaking it in two parts. I don't know exactly why. There's a first round of construction. Let's see. You'll notice it says February 1 to March 18th is part 1 of construction applications, and then May to July 31 is part 2 of a construction application. I don't know why they broke it in two this time. They probably had a good reason, but you might want to note that, and find out why they divided it in two. Probably, like I said, they probably have a good reason, but it might affect how you develop your application. So.
And this is Heidi's project.
This is Heidi. It's Leanne Ferguson.
Okay.
Is running more of the infrastructure. They work as a team, but Leanne's probably more directly in charge.
And just to be clear, that the ODOT infrastructure grant is separate from the Safe Routes to Schools grant.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
It's ODOT's Safe Routes to Schools statewide grant application.
Okay.
That's one thing to think about, and then there's the MPO. We have money, and we have to decide what to do with it, and we'll be making those decisions in the next couple of months. So if you have a big sidewalk project that you think might be a good application for this area, then you talk to Public Works, and I'm sure, I know Bill Lawyer is part of our committee, our technical staff committee. He's aware of the application process that's out there now, and could be your liaison to developing a project.
But there's not a deadline on that one?
Well, yeah, there is a deadline. So there is a pre-app deadline is December 1st. I know, it sounds really, he's probably working on something now, I would imagine. The formal full apps are later. I don't have the exact date. It's on our website about how to apply for funds.
Do you know it, Mike?
I don't know I don't know what Bill is preparing as an application right now. I mean, I just don't know. So
Would it be related to Verda?
well, we've already funded Verda.
Okay.
Well, we've already funded the southern part of Verda. As many of you know, that's in design right now. I don't know the construction year, but that's using the federal funds that came through us. So yeah, I don't know what Bill is thinking about as far as applying. But there's a pre-app that's, I think, December 1st, I think that's the date, and then there's the full app that's in 2022, early 2022. It's all, that information's all on our Mid-Willamette Valley COG website. And if you have any trouble finding out, you can contact me.
Debbie or Mike, if Bill could give us an update on if he's got something in for the December 1st.
Plan.
Well, I'm kind of thinking he may not have anything on his radar, because we haven't told him what we want, to what projects we want to have done.
Well, I'm curious if he's had something that he wanted to get done.
And maybe he's working on something, I don't know. But-
Yeah, and if not, then we can,
And then I'd like to voice another opinion, my opinion. We always seem to be running late on getting our projects ready in time. And as a result, we don't get anything submitted, or, you know. So for moving forward for this committee, I would hope the committee will have a list of projects ready to go, shelf ready. That's my wish for this committee.
no, it's a,
I think they're on the shelf.
yeah, they,
Well,
I
ready
just think
to
that
go.
we need to prepare it into a memo to council.
Ready to go, you know,
Exactly.
to submit as soon as possible.
Believe me, Wayne, I'm on there. I'm on it. Till 2023, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna build something.
okay, well,
I just looked it up, so the pre-app was like a one sheet of the project, just a kind of a description and a basic description of the cost and the benefits, and is due December 1st. The full application is due February 25th.
so let me ask the committee here, so let's just hypothetically assume Bill doesn't have a project in mind. And we have till pre-app is, so if you don't get the pre-app, you don't get to move on to stage 2.
I don't think, if something comes in later, it will be ignored.
Okay.
There's- We have so many organizations in the MPO, Salem, Kaiser,
Mhm.
Marion and Polk County, Turner. These are 5 organizations, so they're quite collaborative. If something came in after the pre-app, I'm sure it would be considered as well.
Okay, but
So somebody needs to talk to Mr. Lawyer and see if he's already got something in mind. And if not, you'd like to, I don't know what he's gonna do in a week, but
well, if it's a one-pager, I'm assuming it's not too intensive of a.
now, is there what amounts of money are we talking about again? Is there a
13
minimum?
million that he has for the
I know,
next 3
minimum.
years, but 8 million that they got between 22 and 26.
Once again, we have 13 million for the years 25, 26, 27, and with the big infrastructure bill that just passed, we just got another $8 million or so, and that's spread between 22 and 26.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an unusual situation we have here, but.
Were you
good
asking
one to
for
be
what's the
in.
minimum project?
Yeah,
The $8 million we just got, that's so new that our policy committee hasn't exactly determined what the process will be for making the decisions about the 8 million. So that's a discussion we're going to have as a policy committee, and Mayor Clark is the chair of that policy committee.
So just for clarification, the deadline for the pre-app is to get in line for the years 25 through 27.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Hirsch, we've got the Kennedy, one that didn't get approved.
Yeah, that was safe routes to school.
Okay.
But there's no reason why we
Well, there's
couldn't.
other projects that
Well, Wheatland,
parallel with almost,
Windsor Island Road, just
Yeah.
the sidewalks there.
well,
Well, so what I was trying to get at was, does the committee favor us talking to Bill to see, one, if he's got a project in mind before December 1, and if not, to recommend a project to him and see if that would be, I don't know, council's probably not meeting before December 1st,
No,
are
December
they?
8th is their next meeting.
So we need council approval too for that.
we don't need it, he does.
Well, yeah, he does.
But he may have some other projects that we're unaware
Correct.
of.
Right, so,
And if this is a pre-app thing too, that might be a little bit more amenable than a regular,
Right.
applying for a regular grant, so.
So you're asking if we got any good ideas or projects that need to be done that we could throw on the table quickly and easily?
mm-hmm,
Okay, so
so,
we've, the other one's the Safe Routes to School project. Are there any parts of that that would be, Hirsch? I can't remember what was in the last request. I mean, I'm more than willing to pay for it any way we can.
You know, Bill, for Cummings Elementary, we didn't get the grant, and Bill came up with some monies
Right.
to come up with where the kids were now no longer walking on the street. It wasn't perfect, but it met a basic need. If we don't get the safe routes, maybe,
Okay.
yeah. With Kennedy and their remodel done, now's the perfect time to finish those sidewalks.
So with
And
that,
at least connect with the Parkway walk bikeway.
Oh,
Because there's,
tell me again what you're talking about.
the,
Sidewalks from where to where?
that would be Newen, the street right in front of the school, all the way to the Parkway bikeway, and it goes in, would serve that trailer. Remember the lady came in and talked about all the kids walking in the gravel and stuff to school. Just that project alone.
Okay. And we got, the one we brought up before was okay. The project we brought up before was the Kaiser Road project from
And
about
that,
2 blocks, right? Mike, you remember, you looked at that once and we talked about it. The Kaiser Road from Verda, 2 blocks east until we meet up with the sidewalks from the apartment.
We also talked about when the church develops that area, that would be part of the improvements. And so I think the conversation was, well, are we going to wait for that? Or are we going to try to use some
Yeah.
funding to do so? Yes, that was definitely one of
I
those.
think we could wait for the church to develop that property an awful long time. I've talked to them about it, and in terms of, I mean, not their desire, it has to do with funding, and it's maybe just, out of reach for a while.
so,
And it's not their highest priority.
So add that piece with the whole Kennedy tie-in and everything. Is that what you're?
Well, I don't know why it couldn't stand by itself, because when I did it, I wasn't thinking about Kennedy at all. I was thinking about the number of people that had to walk down the middle of the street for the baby carriage. That's what started it when I went up, so. And
Yeah, I'm just saying we have a contractor out there and if we get funds to do it, the location's close, just tie that together. I mean,
yes, but it's a small project. That's why I was wondering if there's an amendment. It's a small project. And I've already talked to the people, so I know we've got easement and stuff like that, so. I mean, we can get it. But it's not a huge, expensive project. Just would be nice, whether the church did theirs or not.
so if Bill doesn't have a project in the hopper, would that be the one that we should recommend to him?
Well, we could recommend a couple of them.
Okay.
Not just one.
Okay, well, so there's that one. Because we need to jump on this, so. we
Windsor
gotta have some-
Island,
With,
sidewalks on Windsor Island.
Yep.
Well,
And
actually, we need more definition than that. In all of these projects, they need to be better defined.
well, remember, this is just to get something in,
I
though.
just wanted to ask Bill if we're
If he's,
thinking about
yeah.
it. So,
But
yeah,
you're
all of
right,
these
that's,
would be well.
that'd be step 2.
Windsor
Or 1A.
Island is already in the TSP, and there's clearly breaks in the sidewalks that are significant, that connect 2 neighborhoods and a school.
And you're talking between then, Lock Haven and
Chamawa.
Chamawa.
Okay, there's one, I got 2, 3, okay,
Well, that's 2.
okay. How about-
Do we have a third? The list we're working on, we're thinking of something on Cummings, or tying in with,
Quick one, anybody?
Wouldn't you
Anybody
want
got
to do
pet
those,
project
wouldn't you
or-
want to do the pedestrian lights?
we could do the pedestrian light, yeah?
I have concern with that, because that's not gonna happen for 2 years.
Well, that's true. We're talking,
The lights we might be able to get in a year,
right.
at least one of them.
And the Lock Haven for the McNary is something separate, so we don't even want to talk about that one.
We need to keep Mike here all night.
Okay, Mike, yeah, you don't have a life, do
Not
you?
that Mike, that Mike.
Oh, that Mike. None of us, Mike.
I heard he had a home he goes to
Yeah.
once in a
All
while.
right, well, thank you, Mike, I appreciate that. So, do we want to just stick to two, or do we want a
That's
third?
good for a start.
It's just the two.
Okay, so I will reach out to Bill
Okay?
Okay.
tomorrow, if you, or he,
Kennedy area needs and those around the sidewalk connectivity.
yeah.
Yep.
Does he work Fridays?
He's always there.
So Windsor, you're thinking of pretty soon, is that what you're, for between Schmo and Lock Haven? I only say that because that was falling apart pretty good, and we just recently had contract out, and we dug out a bunch of spots and repaired that, and that's stemmed to be paved this summer, and I know we have some right-of-way issues, so
Yeah,
two different things going on. It wasn't able to go hand in hand to be able to do the sidewalk work in conjunction with being paved, and I just want to be upfront and let everyone know that.
It's a project that needs to be done. Time-wise, money-wise, I don't know, but it's one I don't want us to drop off and miss an opportunity, whether it's this year funding or in a couple years. It's in the project. Traffic, housing, everything is getting greater in that area. And there's a crossing there that goes to Kennedy Elementary, and people are walking in the street in the gravel, and then there's sidewalks, and then there's not. So I want to just keep that project on the forefront.
Okay, well, I will talk to Bill tomorrow. Okay, next, we have Jamie. I know you gave me a heads up, so there's nothing to report. TSP goals, objectives, and policies discussion. Who's responsible for that one?
You put it.
I did?
So this is a 129-page report, and I have, since we started this
Oh,
meeting,
that's right.
been going through it
Oh, this one?
and reading it, and I'm only on page 78. So I think we need to take this in pieces if we're going to,
And this is also where the Planning Commission has, because 2014, we're coming up to,
7, 8.
yeah.
Well, I know we were talking about the grant to do an update or a full update. Does anyone know what that looks like? Where we are with that?
Shane would know, I guess.
Have you heard anything from Shane about that?
No, I haven't heard anything. I think that if there was anything that was actually going on, that Shane would have reported it at a council meeting. And since I do those minutes, I haven't heard anything. I've listened to all the meetings and I haven't heard anything.
Okay, well, I know I had some highlights on some of the stuff I was looking through there. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it with me, so I will save that for the January meeting.
Okay.
White.
The blue light, so I should have printed it out. So basically what it is, we have our indicator, or our detectors for bicyclists who are waiting at traffic lights for the light to turn. And you could be sitting there for a while wondering, does that thing even know I'm here? And sometimes I don't think it does. And I know Hirsch has talked about, we tell Public Works and they'll kind of adjust it. But unlike the old-fashioned days where there was a cut in the pavement, you knew you were over the detector, you still don't know if it's registered. So these blue light detection things are basically what it is. It's a blue light that's on the traffic light pole, and will turn on, and that way you're knowing it's seeing you. So you're not just sitting there waiting for the light to turn and seeing all the cars and people going the other way. So, any thoughts? I know this is not seeing it, but
I thought we'd corrected the problem at the two intersections that the signals weren't catching the bicyclists. Are there still some that aren't working this week?
Well, yes and no. The ones that most cyclists use are is Dearborn and River Road, Cummings and River Road. And this is my own personal experience. You have to take it. 1 minute, I'll come up and it works perfectly. For a week, it'll work perfectly. And then the next time, it's like, I'm here. So engineering wise, it should be recording me, but there may be atmospheric things or
Or an outfit thing.
or my outfit, you know.
doesn't like orange.
Yeah, they
maybe
hate
it's the orange and
Lycra.
black, I think that it
Yeah,
was.
that Lycra is enough. So, and I've heard some of my friends in Portland that do have those. They're kind of hit and miss too, because they're sending out a kind of a signal to you to catch you. So I don't know if it's good. I'd like to experiment with them.
And the way I see this is just for it to tie in with that detector, and so if it doesn't turn on, you're like, this thing is not even seeing me.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna go hit the pedestrian button.
Well, the current law is if you could proceed with due caution without, which I'm afraid has been confused completely by some of my fellow cyclists. That means I don't have to stop at a stop or control device.
Right.
I'd like to do a little more research on that blue thing. It has some merits. Bill and, see, the city of Salem actually controls and does the maintenance on our lights. So, like for the Monster Cookie, they actually helped with the one there on Dearborn. And it seemed to work. The reports I got from riders was, yeah, it seemed to work. So,
Okay, well, if you all would like to take a look at least this website, to see what it says, and you can bring back in January what you think.
I think the worst day of the year ride in Portland is in January, and that's a good one that you could test some of their lights out on.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well,
But it is, and I would have them where we have on-street bike facilities, i.e. Dearborn, maybe even Chamawa, definitely down at Lock Haven,
yeah.
but not every street.
No, yeah, I agree with you there. Okay, so moving on, so, December meeting, I haven't heard anyone clamoring to keep it, so
That's the 16th, is that correct, Deborah?
it would
Yeah.
be the 16th.
Yes, it is.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
it's at the
gone.
bottom of the page.
Yeah, 16.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping, I'm going to a bowl game.
Like you think.
I'm hoping.
So, let's, just yay or nay?
What do you think? How busy are you?
I would like to say no.
No, you
No
don't.
to December.
And I know Stephen has said that he wouldn't be able to make the December meeting.
Well, I see he's next to report. You might want to check with him if he's going to be able to.
Oh, we need somebody else to report because he's not here.
He is.
Yeah, so somebody else needs to volunteer. I can tell you when we get, let's decide on the meeting.
In a little bit, okay.
Yeah, so all in favor of canceling?
Let's
December?
cancel.
I don't care.
That means this is Wayne's last meeting, just so you know.
Yes.
Yeah, we have something to celebrate. I didn't want to bring it out. We knew
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Awesome.
okay,
So you've agreed?
we have agreed.
All right, so let's do this. We have something to do. We have cookies.
There you go.
Start, pick whatever you want and pass it on. And whatever's left over, we want you to take home.
Yeah. And if you have anything, any words to say?
Wisdom.
Or curses, now's a chance to get them
Get
out.
that Monster Cookie.
There's a monster. Well, I've been on Traffic Committee for 2 terms, almost 2 complete terms. I'll be finishing in December, but apparently not because we're not having a meeting. So tonight's my last night. It's been almost 6 years. We've talked a lot about a whole bunch of different projects, but then I kind of noticed that we don't fully define them, and we don't define them soon enough, and as a result, we don't get anything done. And I've been kind of frustrated with that we haven't got a lot done. We've, a few years ago, we did the Cummings, the multi-use path that, we put forth a grant request, we put forth another grant request near Kennedy, and we were making progress. Some of those ideas were eventually implemented into, or done by the city anyway, without a grant. So we can get things done. I just encourage this committee to, we need to define the projects in much more detail, make sure they're on the TSP, update the TSP if we need to, and, do good things for Kaiser. Oh, we've done a lot of helmets, helmets displays and giving away helmets, so that's a good thing. It's been fun being involved.
Well,
Cookies.
I hope you come back and tell us if we're doing a good job, or if you have a problem with what we're not doing, so.
You're welcome back.
You're welcome back.
Or how many miles you're gonna log.
Or how many
without-
miles you
With this
plan.
extra hour per month that you'll
Yeah.
get back.
Lots of them as soon as I'm able.
Mike mentioned that Safe Routes to School was doing maps of walking. They took your stuff and copied it and used it as a format for the others, so.
There was something I did, or we did, a few years ago. I developed some walking routes to school where they could put in their street and then the name of the school, and it would show the kids how to get there. He mentioned his version is even better because it looks at where the good sidewalks are, not just how to get there. But that's still out there. It's on the website. I'm proud of that.
Well, thank you for the time you put on the committee, and we will miss you. Okay, so there was no planning commission for you to report on, so
No, there wasn't.
we will jump on to committee member input, and I guess we'll start with Jamie. Any committee member input?
I don't have anything today.
David?
Oh, yeah, somebody showed up here a couple months ago complaining about the sidewalks for wheelchair and walker people along Lock Haven and Verda, Chamawa. So I went for a walk one day with my camera and took pictures of all the problems, areas where the sidewalks have buckled. So if you're in a walker, you might, or using a cane, the sidewalk, if it was over a half inch, I wrote it down and took pictures of it. There's areas along Verda where people have let their shrubs grow well over half the sidewalk's gone. So if you were in a wheelchair, you'd probably have to go out in the street to go along there. There's a bunch of those. So I took pictures of everything and wrote up and turned it into code enforcement people. Anyway, I was driving around today and noticed a bunch of them have been fixed. So the system works sometimes. Okay? So I noticed that somebody had cut out a chunk of their sidewalk and put new cement in. And so some brush has been cut back, weeds have been shoveled out of the sidewalk. I don't think people realize that if you let your weeds grow out a foot on both sides of the sidewalk, it kind of narrows it down. So anyway, I just noticed that actually the system was working, so. And the other thing, I noticed everybody in Kaiser, lots of people are worried about speed, and so am I. But on the other hand, I was watching when I was driving 25 miles an hour, which is the speed limit through in front of Carol's house. It seems fast. You know, when you stop and look at how fast you go by a parked car, it looks fast, but it's still pretty slow. You know, there's so much perception in speeding. I worry about saying, well, I'm really not speeding. Then I saw somebody the other day, I was out walking on Wheatland. Somebody went by me doing about 60, you know. And I wasn't quick enough to call the police or anything. I didn't recognize, it wasn't a local car, because normally if they turn into one of the 3 or 4 blocks around me, I'll walk down it and see if I can find their car and get their license number and address. And then we can call somebody and say, you know, this guy needs to have a talking to or something. Well, I'll put it on the neighborhood, how's that?
The next door, yeah.
Next door, is that yeah.
I'll report.
Okay, that was all.
Okay, well, speaking of speeding, there was, on my street for the past couple of weeks has been the speed blinker thing for people to pay attention that it's a 25 mile an hour zone. And I appreciate it, but to sound like a broken record, if you gotta put that up, which I appreciate, it probably means that the street's designed for people to drive too fast anyway. Because while it slows people down, while it's there, I guarantee the next day it's moved, people will go back to driving 35 down the street. So.
You're a pessimist.
A realist, I like to think. But so just getting back to design of our streets is important. So whether it be in the TSP, whether it be in the planning code, or projects that we're touching the street, if we can do incremental changes to make our streets design safe, we'll see a lot of people's concerns about speeding addressed. That's gonna take time, it's gonna take money, but, you know, you eat the elephant one bite at a time, so. And I don't know if Sergeant Leday will bring this up, but the recent accident the other night, the boy, is there any information?
So it's under criminal investigation.
Okay.
Tell me what you're talking about.
A little boy was killed down by,
Not killed.
We didn't have a little boy that was killed.
oh, okay,
So we had a youngin' that was injured,
okay.
along, as he was riding along Lock Haven from sidewalk to sidewalk, crossing an intersection. So a vehicle made a left-hand turn into that intersection when he was crossing through on his bicycle.
So it was,
Bicyclist was going eastbound on the sidewalk area,
yeah,
and vehicle was going westbound, turning southbound.
Okay, got it.
okay.
Okay. So as he was crossing the street, the guy,
Vehicle made a left-hand turn and they struck.
Okay.
Because it's under criminal investigation, I can't give any
I understand that, I just,
details.
But you gave it
yeah,
details.
yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
all I needed to hear. Okay, all right, well, again, I guess it gets back to, you know, Lock Haven is 35 miles an hour, and people drive on it 35 plus miles an hour. So I think people have that mentality of, it's a long, straight street, I can drive faster, even if I'm turning, I'm gonna try and turn faster. So, design is the key.
I will say speed wasn't a contributing factor.
No, but I think it's the mindset people have. They might not be going fast at the time, but it's their mindset of, I'm rushing to get somewhere.
Or distracted.
Or distracted.
Distracted and careless.
And, well, yeah. I think it's all careless, yeah. Rick, did you?
No, anything.
Hirsch?
With the holidays and everything, I'm just going to work on bikes at the house. But I'm going to be meeting with McCrae after the holidays. and start working to do a bike skills fair, possibly with the Kaiser Police, May, April. It'd be nice to maybe do it the week of Iris Festival, make it kind of a fun thing, as well as tie in some helmets, because we got a good supply of helmets. A donation request went into the bike club for some money to buy some more. We got a counselor that knows how to fit helmets.
Actually, nobody showed up that day, so I have zero experience, though. I know in theory.
Okay, you know the theory. So, spring, we want to do some events. Another thing that I'm working on, and I'm just gonna, it's a thought, write it down. With so many cyclists of all ages, the bike shops are empty. So we know they bought, early in 2020, they bought tons of toilet paper and bicycles. And with all those out there, even if 10% of them started riding in the spring, then we may have problems. You know, a child gets hit here, an adult. We've had adults down on the Parkway that went through the light that got hit by the. I'm just thinking maybe through this committee, maybe we could do some pickup rides, short little rides, group rides, kind of show and talk about bike safety, maybe even have a repair night or something. It's strictly my thoughts at this point in time, but at the Monster Cookie, we had the mini cookie. We weren't anticipating it, really anybody. And we had so many people, and we had people driving down from Portland and Vancouver to do it.
With their little kid, and that was with old people and little kids.
Right, and so we got a beautiful park. We got some beautiful routes that have been done. But I need to kind of figure out how to do it. Maybe just little quick pickup rides periodically.
Well,
just a thought at this point.
And if we work with the schools, with the PTA or with the.
Well, that's why I'm going to be talking with McCray.
Yeah, because that doesn't cost anybody anything.
And even a partnership with one of the groups at McNary.
Well, and Hershey.
Well,
I'm
if
sorry,
I might.
go ahead.
So we have now at McNary a huge push for clubs. Every Wednesday, we have an hour set aside for particular clubs, and so if we could get a traffic or a bike club or something like that going at McNary for that would be a great opportunity. And so you just need to find a staff member who'd be willing to take that on, but that would, and I can help you with that, but that's a great opportunity.
I know kind of how that works because my wife was the equestrian coach.
There you go.
So, but just nothing intense because, but the need's there, and it just came out overwhelmingly at the mini cookie, people saying, why don't you do these things? So.
Yeah.
Okay, it just.
Well, I think maybe too, is May 20th is the bike to school day. So maybe if we could have something where we do kind of like a different schools, a bike bus.
Yeah, I know Jeremy Everett. There at McNary. I can't keep up with him on a bike. But I mean.
Yeah, he'd be a great one.
Yeah, okay. This is just ideas, but we'll work on it.
Well, Wayne, I'm going to give you one more chance for input. Do you have any?
I think I've already said all I need to say. It's
Okay.
a pleasure working with this committee, and hope we do good things for Kaiser, make it safer for, we seem like we always come down to, it's the roads, it's the arterial highways, and we've been working for making things better for cars, and we want to try to make it better for pedestrians and bicyclists. And safe routes to school, safe routes to park, and there's one more you don't want to forget about, and that's the Oregon Community Path. There's 3 pathways that were mentioned at the Parks meeting. The one that we talked about, the Labish Dish to come to
It goes into Gupser neighborhood.
Country Glen Park. Okay, the Claggett Creek Trail Corridor. And there's another one that was mentioned, McNary to Kaiser Rapids, some type of a corridor pathway. So those could be Oregon Community Pathway type projects. There is money available. It's probably next year when you do get into that cycle of grant. Just make sure you don't forget about those.
All right, I'll put that on this too. I remember talking about that
The
one.
Labish one was really feasible.
Okay, well, thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move on to Mike.
Thank you, Chair DeBosse. I guess the only thing recently is Friday we had a whole bunch of rain, and so our guys were out pretty busy clearing, for the majority, leaves off the catch basins. And once we were able to do that, a lot of the streets, quickly the flooding went down. A couple sites along River Road are just habitual Mandarin, Sunset, but that's a capacity thing. And we take leaves off, it still doesn't matter. Once the rain stops, it catches up, and those will drain. So from that, we found a couple areas, and the guys went through this week and hit those trouble spots. So it was a good rain to have, flushed a lot of stuff out, and gave us some areas we need to work on. It's kind of cool, the leaves are about down, and so things just get a little easier. And then I'd just like to thank all those people that do clear the leaves off the catch basins in front of their homes. That's just awesome, and we applaud them, and less work for us and keeps our roads safer. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Sergeant Leday, anything?
Just a few things. December 7th, we have our Festival of Lights, that Saturday. That parade is actually going to be taking place. So we're prepping for that one coming up with Public Works. However, this month, November 27th, we actually have a couple events going on. One is our Thanksgiving weekend, but 2 is also Civil War. So with Thanksgiving being one of our deadliest weekends for traffic fatalities nationwide, Kaiser's actually hosting what we call a high visibility enforcement saturation patrol. But we're actually hosting it with MAT, so we have multiple agencies that are actually joining in with us on it. So they'll be coming to Kaiser for the kickoff at 8 o'clock at night for a briefing. Then they'll be heading to their jurisdictions, but they'll all be working overtime shifts looking specifically for DUI drivers. I'm probably not covering all the agencies, so.
All you have to do is look for those cars with a 0 on them.
But agencies that are going to participate, Marion County being one, Polk County being another, Salem PD, OSP, Silverton, Staten, Woodburn. And I'm sure I'm probably missing 1 or 2 because I have Officer Powell that's putting it together with the other agencies. But most of our agencies within Marion County are actually going to have folks on overtime looking specifically for the impaired driver, amongst other violations also. So that'll be a nice touch to try and keep our roads a little bit safer throughout the weekend. Just kind of a reminder maybe for Hirsch, a lot of like your education for bicycle. What I'm finding in, as far as kind of a common theme with a lot of our bicyclists that are being hit, is that in all of our clothing, I cannot think of one case where we've actually had the retroreflective clothing or anything else like that. Everything seems to be blending in and being dark. Nowadays with daylight savings time going down, at 5 o'clock, we've lost our daylights, and we still have a lot of folks that are still riding bicycles. So I'm not sure as far as what you have with the club, as far as information that you can release.
Well, through Odot and Heidi, there's a whole bunch, and we'll work on that.
Maybe reinforcing that just as a reminder for a lot of our bicycles.
Because I almost hit a cyclist with my truck yesterday, and he was completely black. Dark as all get out, so, yeah.
We'd also like to encourage cyclists to use lights on their bike, even during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that wraps it up.
All right, thank you. Okay, council report?
Well, I don't really have a whole lot, well, really anything to report, but Wayne's been doing a fabulous job coming and giving the reports at council. He's just really been very thorough, updating us as to what you guys have been up to, and I really appreciate everybody's work, and thank you, Wayne, for your service. You've been fantastic. I guess I just have a more curious question than anything else. These extended blackouts that we've had for the past couple of days, are those due to auto accidents, or are those just something else altogether?
I don't know of any crashes that have taken out
No.
any power poles locally.
Okay, so it's just whatever it is.
PGE grid.
Okay.
I saw something that said an equipment failure.
Okay.
As far as,
Well, they have to stop doing that.
It's always hard to tell when you see all the trucks somewhere if that's actually what caused it.
Yeah,
They had flaggers on them Wheatland Wednesday morning,
Whatever.
Wednesday at noon or something, but I don't think anything was broken. I think they were just replacing
for a
poles.
long time in
So,
some areas.
that shouldn't have caused a big
North
power
Kaiser,
outage.
Like up by Clear Lake Forest Ridge area.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
feeling windy.
Yes.
Yep, trees
so-
do it.
Well, yeah, so I appreciate that. I was just curious if it was vehicle crashes involved, but thank you for clarifying that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. So we were going to talk about the meetings.
Yes, okay, so, Hirsch, you are scheduled to report in February. Do you want to switch with Stephen and let him do February and you do December?
You always send the minutes? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. and
December
then
6th?
December 6th is the council, and December 8th, that was changed. It is December 1st for the planning commission.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
we just switch.
All right, well, seeing as that's taken care of, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Long meeting.
Yeah.